My name is Henry Piazza. My date of birth is January 1st, 1936. I was born right across the road, there on Piazza Road. My parents lived right across the road.
Okay, and you've already signed the permission form, but we want to just have you say on the recording that we have your permission to do the interview.
You have my permission to do the interview.
All right, thank you. Who were your parents? What were their names?
My father was Dominic Piazza, and my mother was Blanche Taldo Piazza.
Tell me first about your dad. What was he like?
Well, he was a hard-working fella, farmed all his life. He served in World War I, and then we got married when he was 28, and had 5 children. And every one of us was born and raised right across the road.
Tell me about your mom.
Mom was she was a hard-working young girl. Her parents farmed like everybody else, and she worked out in the fields a lot. And they lived right down in the holler down here just below us.
Tell me about your grandparents, if you remember them.
My grandparents, I don't remember the grandparents on my father's side, and I faintly remember Grandpa on my mom's side.
Tell me about your siblings, your brothers and sisters. Who were they, and what age? Old were they compared to you?
Well, I had three brothers and a sister, and they were all older than me, except my sister was 2 years younger than I am. I mean, she lives in Springdale right now.
Tell me their names.
The oldest was Albert Piazza, which deceased about 2 years ago. And I've got another brother. The next one was George, and he's still with us. He's getting up in his 80s. And my brother Hubert, he passed away, I think he was 78, several years ago, I forget the year. And then Nora, she's my sister. She lives down on Crutcher Street in Springdale. She's 2 years younger than I am.
Okay. Tell me about, you said your dad was a farmer. Tell me about your family business. What all did he do, and what was it like?
Well, he's a farmer. We had milk cows, and normally we row cropped beans and tomatoes, and of course the hay for the mules and horses, and had 3 or 4 milk cows at the time. And later on, I think in about 46, we got into the chicken business, built a few chicken coops and raised chickens, and that kept going. Milk cows, chickens, and tomatoes and beans.
Tell me, what was your part in the family business? What would you do to help?
Well, when I got old enough, we picked beans and tomatoes, and worked in the vineyard. We had a lot of grapes. Pulling the grass and weeds with the hoe out from under the vines and keeping them clean, you know.
What all is involved in raising grapes?
Well, raising grapes, you start out with making cuttings and growing the vines. Then you set them out in rows. And when they grow up, you set your post and you stretch the wires and tie them up. And on the 3rd year, you'll get a small crop. And after that, they mature, they get to producing. But back then, they cultivated the middles and then grape hoe, pull the weeds and stuff out from underneath them, and just keep them as clean as you can to a bunch of jungle to go pick grapes through. But there's a lot of work involved. The fall, you prune them and tie them up, cut all the dead wood off, and then retie them to the wires and start all over again.
What other jobs did you work besides around the farm that you may have done to make money when you were young and growing up?
Well, no, I never did go work anywhere until about 16. Then 16 or 17, I worked for Richard Artemani at the Mercantile, stocking shelves and hauling feed and stuff. And then from there, I went to Wichita, Kansas, worked for a construction company for about 2 months. And I come back home and I got a job over in Tulsa at the Industrial Tile, a tile setter's helper. And that was in the 50s, late 50s. Anyway, I graduated from Springdale High in 56. And then we got married August of 56 and moved to Tulsa. I worked for Industrial Tile until I got a job here. I finally landed a job at used to be Heek & Kane Company. I was making about $1 an hour less, but it was home. I didn't have to drive back and forth. And we moved in with my wife's parents until I got the house built in 58. And then we've been here ever since.
Some of the people I've interviewed have talked about how people would move, usually to Oklahoma or somewhere to work, and they might come home on weekends, but they'd work out. What was that like, and why did you do it?
Well, there wasn't no work around here. You couldn't find a job around here. And we did that. There was 5 of us. We'd drive to Tulsa and go to work for Industrial Tile. Drive over on Monday morning. We rented an apartment over there, did our own cooking, our own everything. And then on Friday evening, we'd all come home. And Monday, we'd go back again. And that went on and on and on.
What all's involved with this, the way you set tile in those days? My understanding is a lot different than the hardy board thin set way you would do it now. Tell me, how much harder was the work in those days?
Well, it was quite a bit harder. You know, back then, you had to mud the walls. I mean, you put regular concrete up, with slats, metal laths, and your floating strips, and you mud the wall, and then when it's set up, you set the tile. Now they use cement boards, you know, nail it up and go ahead and put the tile on it. The hardest job we ever had, I worked for Industrial Tile. They landed a job at the University of Arkansas down there in the girls' dormitory. And you couldn't mix on the 3rd floor. They didn't want you to mix the cement up there because you spill a little water, ruin the plaster. So we literally had to mix the concrete, the mud for the bathrooms out in the yard and carried it up 3 flights of stairs in 5-gallon buckets. Now, that's a job, but there weren't the buckets weren't full. You couldn't. There's just so much you can do. But we got it all done.
Tell me about some of the routines around the house. What was it like? How did you help any with the stuff in the house, or did your mom do all that? Or
most of the reason was we had no electricity early on, and we'd pump water by hand, and you had to carry water wherever it was needed, and split wood, cooked with wood stove, and you had to split the wood, and stack it in, and get so many buckets of water in the house for the evening, and it wasn't. Well, it was all right, but it wasn't an easy job. But we didn't know no better.
What are your earliest memories of Tontitown? Going to town and doing things. What are your earliest memories?
Well, they used to have there west of where the Mercantile is now. There's a gas station in there, body shop or whatever, mechanicing thing. They used to have what they called a picnic. Turned into a grape festival now, but it was a picnic. And that was that's where the only entertainment we had in town. You go up and spend 3 or 4 nights, you know, you could buy you an ice cream cone or go there. You used to have 25-cent movies, and not a whole lot of people had money to do anything.
Tell me more about these picnics. Who put them on and what all did you do?
I don't right remember who put them on. But they'd set up tents. We had a movie. We had a big tent that had a movie screen in it. I mean, that's something you didn't see. Get to go to town to get, you know. I mean, that's once a year thing. And it was kind of fun. A lot of people showed up.
Tell me about the stores in town. You talked about Artemati's store, but where all did you go to trade, and what would they have at those stores?
Well, Artemati, they had basically about everything, but Mom and Dad used to go into town twice, every couple of weeks, you know, pick up stuff that you couldn't get at the store here. And we had a pretty good supply of different stuff.
Well, tell me about each of the stores and their owners here in town.
Well, Richard Artemati, he had the store there. It's on the south side of the highway, where across from where it's located now, which has been closed down. And there's a feed mill behind it. And right on the west side of the grocery store was a fairly room for a post office. That was the post office. You go to one place, you can do about everything. And then down the street a little bit, there was Claude Bersani's grocery store. It was just a good place to trade, you know. And then later on, that went out, and the Penalto Garage went in this place. And 412 widened out, so Penalto Garage had to move up. So, but that's the only stores in town that I can remember.
What about the streets through town? What were they like back in those days?
The streets, they were narrow, and I don't remember when they paved 68 or 412 now, but there used to be a dirt road plumb to Springdale. It's a horse and wagon. Got pictures of it in the museum.
Where all did you live when you were growing up?
Right across the road here. I was born and raised at my home place, right across the road here.
Let's talk about going to school. Where did you go, and what was it like?
We went to school at up here at Tontitown. The school building is still there, and it was we had nuns, Catholic nuns that are teachers, and for all in all, they were good people. They kept us lined out. You didn't make too many smart answers because you'd get it. They were pretty strict, but that's okay.
What was a typical day like at school?
Oh, yeah, we had a lot of. Normally, 3 classes in one room because there wasn't a whole bunch of people. But you know, it was sit down, be quiet, do your work, and we'll go to the next class. You know, I mean, they were fairly strict, but they didn't kill nobody. It's good for us.
Who were some of the nuns or the priests that you remember that taught the classes? Do you remember any of them?
The nuns.
Any of your teachers there?
Yeah, there was a little short nun, Sister Mary Jovita. She was real nice. She's a nice nun. And then there was Sister Madonna, and then Sister Xavier, Sister Contella. She was a little bit too strict. She let the hammer down on you. And Sister Bernadine, and let's see, I forgot her first name. It was a Lazari. I don't remember her first name.
Who were some of your classmates that you went to school with? Some of your friends and classmates?
Oh, let's see. Dickie Rozo, he's a cousin. He went up there, and then J.C. Montegani. Let's see, Bernard Pavick. Leslie Mastery, Jimmy Dick Cordiana. Then there's just three girls. There's Bernice Artemani and Ellen Verucki and Liwana Barriola. That's the only three girls at the time.
Tell me about some of the people. When you were a kid, who were some of the older people besides the store owners that you knew and that you respected in the town? That kind of were the people that you would maybe have looked up to.
Well, them old timers. There was Jack Zoppel. He was much older than I am, and he was a nice guy. And Ernest Stolfi, Bill Fontenelle, Neheimer Sonny, Sil Cordiana, Jack Marito, several Penalto, Silvio Penalto, Ben Piazza. There's probably more of them.
Tell me about your church. What was it like, and who were some of the priests that you remember over the years?
Well, the church, when they built this church, not this one, the one before, in 1939, I think. I'm not sure what that date is. Anyway, you used to have church and there was an old church, an old building across the street where we had the picnic, and then built the church, I think in 1939 or anyway, and that was getting deteriorated. Built a new church and that was torn down. It didn't have no steel in it. It was just blocks on blocks, and it was finally decided it was a hazard. So that, and then there's Father Schaefer. That's been a long time ago. There's Father Kennedy, Father Schaefer, Father Stouter. Oh, let me see. Father Quinn. I can't think of anything else right off.
How big a part of your life and your family's life was the local church?
How big what?
How big a part of the community and your daily life was the? Tell me about how important that was.
That was very important, and I think people went to church more then than they do now. I mean, there wasn't very many people that skipped mass, unless they were bad sick or something happened. It's very important, very important.
When you were young and growing up in Tontitown, what would you and your friends do for fun?
Do for fun? Oh, we played football. We used to gang up and go fishing. We weren't big enough to go hunting or old enough. And we used to play marbles, mumble peg. You know what mumble peg is?
Tell me more.
That's where you get a little stick and a pocket knife, and if you twist it off your chin, if it sticks your point on the ground, you could do it again. If you missed, the other guy did it, and every time you missed, you hit that peg. And if you miss enough and it gets down under the dirt, then you bite the peg. You get your nose down to the dirt through your teeth and get a hold of it. And if it's too deep, that's hard to do.
Anything else you can think of?
Oh, we used to play horseshoes, and we had a lot of different things, or kick the can. There's a lot of different things we passed time with. They weren't all real smart activities, but we did anyway.
Um, when you were a kid, what do you remember your parents and their friends and other adults? What did they do for fun?
Well, everybody pretty much. There weren't no telephones back then, and everybody pretty much stayed at the house during the week. But on Sunday, if somebody went somewhere to visit an aunt or uncle or family members, negotiated on Sunday. I mean that's the only time they got out. The rest of the time it's just work and do what you got to do.
So, what would you do when the families would get together? What were some of the activities?
Oh, the kids all went with them. Yeah. I remember going to my uncle's, Uncle Ben, and we'd all go, and us kids and their kids, they find something to do, play or raise Cain.
What about bocce? Who played it, and how big a deal was it?
Oh, I tell you what, that bocce on Sunday afternoon, that was a big deal. All the old timers ended up at the bocce court. And right now we've got a bocce court here at the park, and there's not too many old timers left, but they're still being played on Saturdays. I've played bocce for a long time ago, but I haven't towed a ball, and I don't know when. But it's kind of fun.
So, if somebody didn't know how to play and said, "Tell me how you play bocce," what would you tell them?
Well, you throw. It's got the bocce ball, and they got another little small ball called a bowling. It's bigger than a golf ball. And they take turns, and you toss it out there, and you throw the big balls with the different colors for one side and then the other side. And as close as you get to it, you make your point. And if you threw it and got real close to it, and you was on the other team, I could throw mine and knock yours out of the way, and just what do they call it, yard bowling, or pretty much like it. It's kind of fun. I'll tell you what, them old timers, when they played, if they two had the ball close together, they had the tape measure. We're going to measure it. It's a quarter inch off. It's not yours.
Who all played? Was it only the older men, or did the young kids play?
It was the older folks mostly that they're playing, and then a lot of younger kids picked it up. But right now, there's not that many bocce players left in our community. They had a bocce tournament back in the summer.
Tell me about your service on the city council. When did you get on the council, and what are some of the things you remember over the years?
I think I got on the council in 74 or 73. I was on the council when City Hall was built up there, and it was built in 1974, but I really don't remember for that. And I got on there by accident. The mayor, cause I'd had a scout meeting, I had a scout troop, and had a scout meeting one night, and the mayor come down and said he wanted me to run. I said, man, I'm not smart enough for on city council. Yeah, you are. Just attend the meetings. So he conned me into it. They were meeting down tonight at Columbus Hall then. So I went down there and do you believe I had to pay $1 poll tax just to run? Cost me $1. But anyway, I run and won, and I've won ever since for some reason. And I've had opposition 2 different times, and they can't get me out of there for some reason. I'm gonna have to give up and quit, I guess.
Start with who was mayor when you first got in there, and then kind of tell me all the mayors you can remember.
Oh,
and tell me a little bit about them. What were they like?
Well, Harry Spinoto was the mayor when I got on the council, and he was a good mayor. He was responsible for getting the water in Tontitown. And then there was, let's see, Harris Bonotto, and then it was Freddie Taldo. And he worked at Watson Tire and had a little farm out here. And then I think it was Harold Ballsinger. He run projectors at these movies. And let's see, Ballsinger. I don't remember Steve Smith. He run the Chevrolet dealership down there where Crane is now. He got in on the mayor for one term. And let's see, then it was Steve Smith, Danny Watson, Paul Maestri, Joe Edgman, Jackie Beckford, and there's Paul Coven. I think I've got him pretty much in line there. But Paul is a good man. He works for the citizens of the community like you should.
If someone came to you and said, "Who are who are the best mayors that you can that over the years, and why were they the best?" What would you say?
I would think that Harris Bonotto, as far as being the best mayor, but we had a lax in there that wasn't too good. And Paul Coven is the most, well, things have changed. To getting things done in the community, getting people come together. You know, it used to be the population was not near what it is now, and it's boomed a lot.
Talk about that. How about this unbelievable growth from a town of a few hundred now to, several thousand?
Yeah.
What have you what do you remember over the years about all that?
Well, I think people are afraid of growth. They're afraid of taking chances, and a lot of people want things to stay like they are, and they're not going to stay like they are. They're going to move on. And it's just a different breed of people, I think.
Let's talk about the annual Tontitown Grape Festival. You talked earlier about how you remember before they had it.
Yeah.
And now you were talking about, tell me about when it started and then what it was like and how it's changed over the years.
I guess it started back in 1896 or 1895. See, my Tontitown was settled in 2000, 1900 something. I'm getting too deep, sir.
Okay, well, just tell me what your memories of going to the Grape Festival. What do you remember about going? What was it like when you were a kid going?
Well, the Grape Festival, it moved over here, but we used to have a picnic. We buy ice cream or whatever. It really for pennies. Now not that way. What happened? Did they quit?
No. This is messing with my light here. I didn't realize we turned that back on. I thought I'd shut that off.
You don't want it on, do you?
And I don't want the fan on.
It's cool. It's quitting. It'll quit.
Okay. Is it slowing down or is it quitting?
It's just slowing down.
Yeah, there we go. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you. Are we still?
You didn't step on me.
Turn me back on. Are you still running?
Yep.
All right. So let's go back to the Grape Festival. What do you remember of what it was like when you were a kid? The rides, the concessions, the Queen Festival. What all was it like?
Oh, it was just a fun place to go. Like riding the Ferris wheel and other things. But It was just the only entertainment we had in town. So it was kind of a fun thing to do.
What did you and your family do for? Did you ever volunteer or work at the
Oh yeah.
festival? And if so, what did you do?
Well, I usually ended up in the bingo. Walk around like a donkey at a sorghum mill, you know. Played, worked in the bingo stand. And wife usually served in the kitchen. That you know, everybody signs up or appointed for a certain job. Normally it's once a year, you know. You got enough people to go around. You do the thing 3 times.
What are some of the other traditions you remember besides the festival? Other things that maybe the people in Tontitown did over the years.
Run that by me again, sir.
What are some of the other traditions or things that people in Tontitown did besides the great festival? You mentioned the bocce tournament.
The bocce tournament.
What other events were there besides that people did?
Oh, I don't know if there were much other events really.
Well, let me ask this: what other memories do you have about Tontitown? Maybe things that I haven't thought to ask about. What are some things you can tell me about Tontitown? What the life was like here, growing up and living here?
I didn't understand you, sir. You're getting to where you're talking too low.
What other memories do you have about Tontitown, or the stories you can tell maybe that I haven't asked about? Other stuff maybe that I didn't ask you about?
That's a good question for my wife. She can handle that.
Okay. If someone came to you and said, someone who'd never been to Tontitown, and they said, Henry, tell me about your hometown of Tontitown. What is your town like? What would you tell them?
I'll be honest with you. I'll just tell them to go to the museum. They've got information down there that they can get and learn more than I could probably tell them. Really.
Well, if someone said you could live anywhere in the world, and why'd you pick, why Tontitown? Why'd you pick Tontitown?
Well, because the fact is that I was raised here, born here. I got all my family and friends and relatives are here. And that's just about a good reason I could say to stay. But other than that, if I didn't have a family, I'd move to San Antonio, Italy. That's a good, peaceful, quiet place. They're laid back a lot more where we are.
Interesting. All right, one more question here. If somebody asked you this and they said, or they asked you to finish this sentence, my favorite thing about Tontitown is, how would you finish that sentence?
I think it's a peaceful, caring community. And the people, believe it or not, they do look out for each other. It is a friendly place to be. I mean, it's just my hometown. I mean, you gotta like it.
A lot of people, when they talk about Tontitown, they remember the great food here.
Yeah.
Tell me, what are some of the restaurants over the years you remember eating in, and tell me about them, if you remember.
Well, Venetian Inn always was a nice, good restaurant. It had good steaks or spaghetti if you want. And right now, Mama Z's is a thriving community. They've got good food and plenty of it. And Mary Maestry's, we used to go to Mary Maestry's all the time until they went out. But those are 3 good eating places.
Do you ever remember going to Mary Maestry's home and eating when she had the restaurant?
No, but I remember she started in that rock house out here on Barrington Road, just off of Barrington, on Taldo Loop, years ago. And then they moved up there on 412, 68 used to be.
You've talked to me about a lot of stuff. Is there anything else you can think of maybe that I should have asked you to tell me about that I didn't think of?
Well, I used to make a lot of wine around here.
Tell me about that. You said you had vineyards and you raised grapes. Tell me about making wine.
Making wine, there's a lot of people made wine. And I remember my dad, they had 4 or 7 barrels of wine in the basement. 'Cause they had a good crop of grapes and there wasn't that much demand for it until Welch's moved into town. When Welch's come down, you know, they had a place to sell it. And they used to make wine. And when Welch's come into town, you had a place to go with your grapes. Other than that, you know, they always pruned and tied and sprayed and whatever. But there's no place to go. But it sold some to the outside, but not very much.
You were talking earlier about how much work it is to raise grapes, and then how you had to pretty much make wine, or they'd go spoil. Talk about the process of making wine, and then how you would sell it.
Well, they just they sold it. You know, back during Prohibition, very early years, you know, they made whiskey out of it. And I know that there's times my grandpa made whiskey and my dad, and if they thought the revenuers were coming, they'd start plowing their grapes down there and put the bottles down in the furrow and then cover them up and go ahead and plow the grapes, you know. You had to hide it somehow or you get thrown in jail or whatever.
You talked about Welch's, how that helped the community having a market for the grapes. How did it, on the other hand, how did it impact them when Welch's left? Talk about that, them coming and leaving.
How did they what?
When Welch's came, it helped provide
Yes.
a source of revenue, and then when they left, it kind of forced a lot of the...
Well, often, see, they went out. Welch's, they started paying with grape certificate, kind of like a bond, and they paid the growers after they sold their product with that money, see. They didn't put money out for grapes. They give you a piece of paper says we will. When we sell ours, we'll pay you. And a lot of grape vineyards went out. I mean, they pulled them out. We had probably 25 acres of grapes right here across the road, and I had 8 acres up on the hill up here. And I mean, what do you do with them? You pull them out. And then some of the growers that they pick their grapes and they ship it up Missouri, truck it up there in vats. And Altus down there, Post Winery, bought a lot of grapes. And they got to where you pick it by machine. Give them these big vats, tarp them down and haul them down, and then they'd make their wine out of it down there. But it got to where apparently there's too much of it.
Anything else you can think of?
Statue.
Oh,
Tell me about the statue.
the statues up here. Have you seen it?
Yeah, tell the.
Well, you know, I've been to Italy. Well, I'm fortunate to made 5 trips to Italy. And we was over there in
92.
1992. And I went to a little town in Valle Vesuvio. My parents come from a little north of there in San Antonio, Italy. And anyway, we stopped in Valle Vesuvio, come through there to go north. And there's a statue out there in the town square, and I got to looking out there, got a picture of it up here. It was just a young fella, you know, but they had the American flag, Italian flag, Swiss, and some another one. Anyway, and there wasn't no information about it at all. So when I got up there to north of Italy, or northern Italy there in San Antonio, I asked the lady that was staying there if what about that statue. She said they'd put it up 6 or 8 months ago for the people that left that region to went to other parts of the world, you know. So my folks come from San Antonio. Some come from Boliano, some from Laquato, Stato, all the villages around there. They gathered up and come to Arkansas. Anyway, she said they put that up for the people that left that region to went to other parts of the world. That's all right. And I got thinking about that. My cousin was with me. And I said, you know, on the way home on the plane, I said, you know, I got thinking about that. And I said, you know, if these people could put something up for the people that left there, you'd think we could put something in Tontitown for the people that got there. Yeah, well, yeah, go ahead and think on it, you know. It'll never happen. That made me want to do it. So we went back to Italy and went over there and I took photographs of it. And I come home and I started working on that. That was in 90 something or other. Anyway, it was the 100th anniversary of the 98. It was the 100th anniversary of Tontitown. So I got to working on it, and I got to asking questions and prompting people. And finally, I had to have a meeting. And they decided that if I could get it done, find out what it takes. So I don't know how I got a hold of him. Keith Black lived in Prairie Grove, the sculptor. He did those over McAllister, what was it?
Coal miner.
Whatever. Anyway, he did sculpture. Went over and looked at that. And I got talking to him, and I had him come up. We had a meeting with the mayor and the recorder treasurer, and just gather up, let's talk about this. And he decided that he could do it. And he said he'd give me a price. So I said, go ahead and figure it out and let me know. So I went back and talked to him, and he said he could do it for $12,000, make a sculpture, make a statue. So I brought the information back. I make a long story short, I got the okay to get it done. And so I did. I've got all the names gathered up of the original settlers, their wives and kids, and they're on that granite there. I don't know if you ever saw it or not. And Keith did this thing. And at the 40, I gave him $12,000 for the sculpture, and it took $12,000. He took it to Dublin, Texas, had it cast in bronze and delivered it. Then had a job to get the base made for it. But we got her done. Got her done. And in doing so, he gave me that little one up there. He made that and gave it to me. It's just the same as the one he's got up there, but it's just about yay tall. This is a replica of the statue that's in front of the city hall that Keith Black made and brought it to me for doing the work of getting that statue up there. And it was quite a bit of work. It was kind of fun. Made me happy.
Of all your accomplishments of being on the city council for all those years, where would you put this and rate this?
I think this would be number one. I think it'd be the number one. This, of all the things that I've done, I think is the best turnout of all.